What if your prayer was answered the moment you prayed it, and you never knew, because the answer was already on its way, fighting through an invisible war to reach you? You have prayed and heard nothing. You have waited days, weeks, some of you have waited years, and the silence felt like rejection. It felt like maybe God was not listening. Maybe your faith was too small. Maybe you were not worthy enough for an answer. And slowly, quietly, the prayers became less frequent. Because why keep asking when nothing seems to come back? If that is where you are or where you have been, I want you to stay with me. Because Daniel chapter 10 is about to change the way you pray forever. Daniel was a man who knew how to pray. He had been praying faithfully for decades. He had seen God answer impossible prayers. The lion's den, the fiery furnace, the interpretation of dreams. He had a track record with God that most believers would envy. And yet in Daniel chapter 10, he encounters something he had never encountered before. He is in mourning. Daniel 10 verse 2 tells us he had been mourning for 3 weeks, 21 days of fasting, no rich food, no meat, no wine. He was not being casual about this prayer. He was in full, desperate intercession. Something was pressing on his spirit so deeply that he could not eat normally for 3 full weeks. And during those 21 days, nothing visible happened. No angel appeared. No dream came. No word from heaven. Just a man on his face before God in desperate prayer, with heaven apparently silent. And then on the 21st day, on the banks of the Tigris River, everything changed. Daniel looks up and sees a man standing before him. But this is no ordinary man. Daniel 10 verses 5 and 6 describe him with a linen robe, a belt of pure gold, a body like chrysolite, a face like lightning, eyes like flaming torches, arms and legs gleaming like polished bronze, and a voice like the sound of a multitude. The men with Daniel could not see the vision, but they felt something, such overwhelming terror that they fled and hid themselves. Daniel himself was left alone, drained of all strength, his face to the ground, unable to speak. And then the heavenly messenger touches him, strengthens him, and says these words in Daniel 10 verse 12. Do not be afraid, Daniel, since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard. Since the first day, read that again slowly. Since the first day you prayed, your words were heard. The moment Daniel opened his mouth in prayer, heaven responded. The answer left the throne room of God on day one. But then the messenger says something that pulls back a curtain on a reality most believers never think about. Verse 13, but the prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days. Then Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me because I was detained there with the king of Persia, the prince of the Persian kingdom. This was not a human prince. This was a demonic spiritual power, a principality assigned to the Persian Empire. And it physically resisted the heavenly messenger for 21 days. 21 days of spiritual warfare happening in an invisible realm that Daniel could not see, could not hear, and could not feel while he was on his face praying. The answer was in transit. The messenger was fighting through opposition to deliver it. The only thing standing between Daniel and his breakthrough was his decision to keep praying. This passage tears the roof off everything most people assume about unanswered prayer. The silence you have been experiencing is not evidence that God did not hear you. The delay you have been interpreting as rejection may actually be a battle, a real, invisible, furious spiritual battle happening in a realm you cannot see, over an answer that left heaven the moment you first prayed. The enemy is not passive about your prayers. He knows what an answered prayer can do. He knows what a breakthrough in your life will produce. He knows what happens when a believer receives what God promised them, and he fights to delay it, to discourage you, to make the silence so long and so heavy that you stop praying before the answer arrives. Think about what would have happened if Daniel had stopped on day 20. He was 1 day away from his breakthrough. 1 day. And if the silence and the fasting and the apparent absence of God had been enough to make him give up, the messenger would have arrived on day 21 to find no one praying. Battle in the heavenly realm and the prayer on the earthly realm are connected. They move together. Your continued prayer is not you trying to twist God's arm. It is you maintaining the spiritual pressure that keeps the corridor open between heaven and earth while the battle is being fought. Ephesians 6 verse 12 confirms exactly what Daniel 10 reveals. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Paul is not describing a metaphor. He is describing a reality. Same reality Daniel experienced on the banks of the Tigris River. There is a war happening right now in a realm you cannot see, and your prayers are your weapons in that war. So what does this mean for you practically? Right now, today, means that the prayer you prayed 6 months ago and heard nothing back from may have been heard on day 1. The answer may already be in motion. The messenger may already be on his way. And the only question is whether you will still be praying when he arrives. It means that the silence is not a sign to stop. It is a sign to press in deeper. It is a sign that something significant enough to be opposed is happening in response to your prayer. Because the enemy does not waste his energy fighting for territory that does not matter. If there is spiritual resistance around your prayer, it is because the answer to that prayer is dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. A mother has been praying for her son, who walked away from faith 10 years ago. She has prayed the same prayer thousands of times. She has seen no visible change. He does not come to church. He does not talk about God. Every outward sign says nothing is happening. But Daniel 10 tells her that outward signs are not the whole picture. There is a realm she cannot see. And in that realm, her persistent prayer is doing something. It is maintaining spiritual pressure. It is keeping a corridor open. It is partnering with heaven in a battle for her son's soul that is more real than anything she can see with her physical eyes. Do not let the silence tell you to stop. Let Daniel 10 tell you to press in. It also means that how you pray matters. Daniel did not pray casually. He set his mind, as verse 12 says, to gain understanding and to humble himself before God. There was intentionality. There was fasting. There was full engagement of his whole person in the act of prayer. He was not sending a quick request upward and moving on with his day. He was positioning himself before God with everything he had. This is not about earning an answer through religious effort. It is about the posture of a heart that is fully turned toward God, fully dependent on Him, fully convinced that He alone holds what is needed. That kind of prayer moves differently. It carries a different weight. And Daniel 10 shows us that heaven responds to it immediately, on day 1, every single time. Jude verse 20 says, "Build yourselves up in your most holy faith and pray in the Holy Spirit." That means allowing the Spirit of God to guide what you pray, to intercede through you, to align your requests with the will and the purposes of God. Because prayer that is aligned with God's will is not just a request being sent upward. It is a partnership being activated. It is you joining what God is already doing, adding your voice to a heavenly conversation that was happening before you even knew you needed to pray. Daniel chapter 10 ends with the messenger strengthening Daniel, touching him, speaking peace to him, and then departing to continue the battle with the promise that Michael was standing with him. And Daniel, who began the chapter unable to eat, unable to speak, face to the ground in weakness and mourning, ends the chapter standing, strengthened, heard, seen, known. That is what prayer does. Not always in 21 days, sometimes longer, sometimes in ways we do not expect. But the God who heard Daniel on day 1 is the same God who hears you the moment your mouth opens in prayer. The God who sent a heavenly messenger through spiritual warfare to bring an answer to a faithful man on the banks of a river is the same God who is moving in response to the prayers you have prayed and not yet seen answered. You are not praying into silence. You are praying into a war, and the war is being fought on your behalf by a God who has never once lost a battle. So pray. Keep praying. Pray with understanding. Pray with persistence. Pray knowing that the moment you first opened your mouth, heaven moved. Answer is already on its way. Thanks for watching. If this message blessed you, please like and subscribe for more lessons. Stay blessed.